Hello, everybody, and welcome to the study by Cseh on peer and parental influence on adolescent marijuana use in New York City. So before we jump into the presentation, I wanted to welcome the Commissioner, Bill Chong of the DYCD. He's here today listening to this proposal. And I hope from today's proposal and my final proposal that I send over to him, I hope that we can change the lives of thousands of New York City youth together. So the presentation outline, it is going to consist of an overview of the problem, an overview of the affected population, the opportunity that we have at hand to seize this problem and create an effective solution. We're going to dive into some current strategies that the DYCD is currently taking in realizing this issue. We're going to look into some primary research on the issue and kind of the overall perspective. Then we're going to dive into the development of a plan to address this problem and create the effective solution. And we're going to discuss how we're going to integrate this solution into New York City communities to cause the difference. Then we're going to talk about how the DYCD is the perfect resource for us to partner with, because that is how we're going to get the most impact on the New York City youth. And then we are going to discuss the budget and how much this would cost to get this financially off the ground. So diving into the problem, there is an increase in marijuana use in New York City adolescents. And we unfortunately don't know the direct cause of this issue. We have some speculation, but we're not sure yet. So diving into visualizing the problem, out of all 12 to 17-year-olds in New York City, 8.3 of them in the past month, 112,000 out of 1.3 million have used marijuana in the past. And this just shows that kids that are not adults yet are using this drug, and that this drug, although it is not a gateway, we're not calling it a gateway drug in this scenario. We're just taking note that children from the ages of 12 to 17, 8.3% of them are using marijuana or have used it in the past month. And then diving into the reasons why these adolescents are using, it kind of is a very mixed thing. You can see peer pressure is the majority alongside of curiosity. And then we have affected by parents, affected by the neighborhood, coping with boredom, escaping fear and pain. So there's a kind of wide variety of different things that cause children to smoke. But we can see that the majority lies in peer pressure and curiosity. So this means that if we were to come up with an effective solution, it's good to inform on the facts, but it could be beneficial to us to really dive into what peer pressure is and kind of diagnose that level of curiosity that comes out of smoking marijuana. So looking further into this, we need to diagnose the specific affected population. And as you can see on the screen, the affected population is children between 10 and 18 years old. The reason for this is because in the survey studied by 982 US parents, we can see that the majority of children that started to smoke weed, the majority of them, over 70%, started to smoke weed in this period, or marijuana, in this period of 10 to 18 years old. This is because of a variety of factors. It could be because this is the most influential state. This is the adolescent might not know better. There could be a variety of reasons, but it's good to just have a general overview that this is the specific affected population. This is the age range that we need to focus on. So, what needs to happen now that we have diagnosed the problem and we have figured out the affected population? We need to create better education among this age group. We need to figure out a way to make these kids smarter so that they can make better decisions and hopefully influence others to make better decisions as well. So, how can we get traction? First, just getting into it, implementation of an in school and an after school program to educate more on just the facts about these drugs. So, diving into what the DYCD has already implemented, they have already implemented a variety of after school programs that give children a place to go and a place to stay so they don't have nowhere to be after school. A variety of summer youth employment programs that give youth the opportunity to put their time into good skills, cornerstone learning projects so youth can get a better understanding of what they want to pursue in their life, and it kind of gives them something to do over the summer as well. A variety of programs for family services and runaway youth and kids who have family issues at home and might need a place to stay. And of course, they already have the Dare Call hotline, which is for drugs and for reducing the effectiveness and awareness of the takeover of drugs in our community. So, what programs can we develop? So, currently in New York City, there is a DARE program for intermediate school kids, which is fifth and sixth grade, and it is not mandatory for all schools and it isn't very well regulated. So, if we implemented a DARE program for every single grade from fifth to 12th grade, I think that that would pose the best education and the most awareness for the kids in this specific category of 10 years old to 18 years old. Another thing that we could implement is we can implement the hiring of a drug counselor for each school. This is a specific person that is going to work with kids that might have a drug issue and might be coping with a family issue or a social issue or something like that. And they might be using marijuana. We also need to add social influence programs that teach these adolescents and young adults about the decision making that they are making and that they don't have to conform to peer influence or family influence in some form of way to be cool or to fit in some way. That their gut decision on not wanting to take part in getting high or doing something along those lines with marijuana, um, they can make an informed decision to not and be comfortable with not doing that. So let's dive into some primary research. This is a survey done on parents in New York City, and 56% of parents in New York City say that marijuana is socially acceptable. This is the majority. This kind of goes to show that there isn't much guidance at home from parents on this topic, and that we can't trust parents to teach their kids about the true effects that this can have on the long-term development and the long-term success factors. Getting a letter grade increase, according to a Science Direct survey, a letter grade increase in a child's grade resulted in a 15.3% decrease in the likelihood of them trying or using marijuana. This goes to show that if a student is getting a C versus if a student is getting an A, it has a massive impact on whether or not they are going to use marijuana or not use marijuana. So if we promote educational programs so that these kids can get better grades and get help and understand the material better, they may be less likely to try a substance. And then looking at this graph, this goes to show the type of parent that is the four types of parent that a parent could be. A parent could be a chronic user of marijuana, which means that they have frequent use throughout their life. This goes to show that 20% are late onset users, 27% are non-users, and that 21% were adolescent limited users, which means that they only used it. So you used it in their earlier teenhood or adulthood. So this chart goes to show that parents could be all over the place on the scale, and that we cannot expect that kids are going to get the same information given to them on a daily or weekly or monthly basis on these topics. So, what kind of plan can we develop? So, first, we need to ask some questions. Where are these kids getting influenced? Where can we provide support for these children? And what do we need to teach them to get the message across? Diving into some solutions, we need to teach these adolescents not only about the facts, but also about the influences and the proper decision making skills that they need to make the best decision for them. So, how are we going to implement this sort of plan? We need to create a mandatory in school program for 5th through 12th graders that allows them to become aware of not only the facts, but about the psychology and the awareness on using marijuana. The next thing that we need to do is we need to provide parents with proper information on how to keep their child aware and away from marijuana. If we can properly educate a parent and make them informed on how early onset use of marijuana can truly have an effect on a child's development, then we can properly get the proper education at home and in school for these children to make an educated decision. The next thing that we can do is balance the education, like I said before, with the facts on drugs and the psychology behind why they choose to use these drugs. There are alternative routes, and these kids and these adolescents and young adults might not be making the most informed decision because they don't have all of the facts. If we can provide them with all of the facts and all of the education on what happens if they different visionaries and different storylines on what their life could play out as if they use marijuana or not use marijuana, we can truly make a difference. So the last thing that we need to get into is the budget. So in phase one, I recommend that we start small. We need to just pick one school district in the New York City borough, 1 to 3 school districts in the New York City borough to test this out on. The next thing that we would need to do is we would need to create a core drug and peer influence curriculum. After doing some research on the true cost of a curriculum, I looked up that it would probably cost around $9,000 a year to hire and do the right research on forming a full-time curriculum for students. Then we would need to hire a full-time drug counselor to work in the school to make sure that kids are getting proper guidance and proper education, and that somebody is leading this core curriculum on drug and peer influence. So that would probably cost around $60,000 a year. The next thing that we need to do is create a direct marketing campaign to inform all of the parents in this district on the educational things and the awareness things that they can bring into their child's life at home to where they can make a difference. So this totals up to be about 75,000 for the first year to implement this program into one school. The phase two of this would be to scale our impact. Before we move into this, we would definitely want to hire a review analyst to review the impact that we made on year one. And to get the job properly done, it would cost about $5,000 to get a professional firm to come in and to truly analyze a bunch of different data metrics that we are collecting. The next thing that we would have to do is revise the curriculum for another $9,000 to really add the effects and add the parts of the curriculum that we missed out on and that we have taken note of. And then the next thing to do would be to implement this solution, implement the direct marketing campaigns and the drug core and peer influence curriculum to make kids more aware across all the districts or more of the districts in New York City. I'm going to leave you with this, the call to action. This change needs to happen now, and we are in the driver's seat of change. We can skew the direction of these child and adolescents' future right now if we put our efforts and the money that we have on the table toward a proper solution. I really appreciate you for listening to this conversation. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day and take care.